Haku's death is the very first time Naruto made fans realize this wasn't going to be a simple action anime. Haku isn't just an antagonist, he's a broken child, born into a world that rejected him. His bloodline limit, the ice release, should have been a blessing, but in the hidden mist village it was seen as a curse. Feared by his own people, orphaned and alone, Haku's only salvation was Zabuza Momochi. Haku devoted himself to Zabuza, not because he wanted power, but because he needed purpose. He believed his life had value only if he was useful to someone else. That made him one of the saddest characters from the very beginning. A boy who never saw his own worth outside of being a tool. When Haku steps in front of Kakashi's Chidori to protect Zabuza, it's not just an act of loyalty, it's an act of love, of devotion, of a child who finally feels he has meaning, even if it costs him everything. The moment when Naruto screams at Zabuza, demanding to know how he could be so cold about Haku's sacrifice, is unforgettable. It forced Zabuza and the audience to confront the tragedy of a shinobi system that creates children like Haku. Haku's death hurts because it's so early, and because it showed us just how human even the so-called villains could be. His quiet smile as he fades, knowing he was able to protect the person he cared for most, makes his sacrifice one of the most emotional deaths in the series. Zabuza Momochi. If Haku's death shattered us, Zabuza's death broke us. Known as the Demon of the Hidden Mist, Zabuza was introduced as a ruthless assassin, a man who killed without hesitation. But Haku's death stripped away that mask. For the first time, Zabuza's humanity broke through. The image of Zabuza charging through Gato's men, mortally wounded, cutting them down with nothing but sheer will, is legendary. But what truly stays with fans is his final moments. Sitting beside Haku's lifeless body, Zabuza admits he cared for the boy, even if he never said it. He cries, not for himself, but for Haku, and begs to see him again in the afterlife. This death transformed Zabuza from a villain into one of the most tragic figures in the story. He wasn't just a killer, he was a man caught in a cruel system who found redemption through the bond with his tool. It's no exaggeration to say that Haku and Zabuza's deaths defined the tone of Naruto. They taught us that this was a story where even enemies had hearts, and that death would never be meaningless. Hiruzen Sarutobi. The death of the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was a turning point for the series. Hiruzen wasn't just a leader, he was the professor, a man who embodied the will of fire and carried the weight of the hidden leaf on his shoulders for decades. When Orochimaru invades Konoha, Hiruzen doesn't hesitate. He knows he's old, past his prime, but he also knows he can't allow his former student to destroy the village he loves. His fight with Orochimaru is brutal, not just physically but emotionally. Facing the reanimated first and second Hokage, his own predecessors, he bears the shame of failing to stop Orochimaru before things went this far. The moment Hiruzen uses the Reaper Death Seal to strip Orochimaru of his arms is iconic. It's not a full victory, but it's enough to protect the village. His final words, reminding Orochimaru of the will of fire, hit even harder because we know Hiruzen never stopped believing in his students, even the ones who betrayed him. His death leaves Konoha vulnerable, and his absence is felt for a long time. But more than that, it's the first major death of a leader in the series. Hiruzen wasn't just a Hokage. He was a grandfatherly figure to Naruto, a protector of generations. Losing him felt like losing a pillar of the shinobi world. Kimimaro-Kimimara's death is tragic because of what could have been. As the last of the Kaguya clan, he was cursed with a body that gave him immense power but also destroyed him from the inside. Even when he's introduced as an enemy during the Sasuke retrieval arc, it's clear Kimimaro isn't truly evil. Like Haku, he's a boy who only wanted to be useful. His devotion to Orochimaru is heartbreaking because it's born from loneliness. Orochimaru gave him purpose when no one else would, even if that purpose was twisted. Kimimaro's body, ravaged by illness, should have made him weak, but he pushed himself to the limit in battle against Naruto, Lee, and Gaara. His death comes not from defeat in combat, but from his sickness finally overwhelming him. He collapses mid-strike, inches away from killing Gaara, his dream of serving Orochimaru to the end slipping away. What makes Kimimaro's death sad isn't just the loss of his life, but the sense that he was never truly living for himself. He was a weapon, a tool, and only in his final moments do we realize how tragic that really is. Rin Nohara Rin's death is one of the most pivotal and tragic in the entire series. Unlike many other characters, her death wasn't just about her, it changed the entire shinobi world. Captured by enemy shinobi and turned into the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails as part of a plot against Konoha, Rin makes the impossible choice. She runs in front of Kakashi's Chidori, forcing him to kill her rather than letting the beast inside her be unleashed on the Leaf Village. It's a moment of pure self-sacrifice, but also unimaginable tragedy. The impact of Rin's death is devastating. Kakashi never forgives himself, carrying the guilt for the rest of his life. But it's Obito who's truly destroyed by it. Watching the girl he loved die at the hands of his best friend pushes him over the edge, setting him on the path to becoming one of the series' main antagonists. Rin's death is heartbreaking, not just because she died young, but because it became the spark for so much pain, war, and destruction. She wanted to protect her village, but instead, her death plunged the world into chaos. That irony makes it one of the saddest moments in all of Naruto. Gaara's death during Naruto Shippuden shocked everyone. Introduced in the original series as a terrifying monster, Gaara's transformation into the Kazekage and a beloved protector of his people was one of the most inspiring arcs in Naruto. That's why his death hurt so much. Just when he had finally found love, friendship, and purpose, it was ripped away. When the Akatsuki capture him and extract Shukaku, Gaara dies. His lifeless body being carried back to the Sand Village is one of the most painful images in the series. For once, Gaara wasn't the weapon everyone feared. He was their hope. Seeing the villagers mourn him shows how far he had come, from hated outcast to cherished leader. What makes his death bearable is Chiyo's sacrifice to revive him. But even then, the emotional weight lingers. For those moments, Gaara was gone, and the emptiness he left behind was unbearable. His death reminded fans how much he had grown and how much he meant, making his revival one of the most uplifting moments in the series. Chiyo's death is the perfect follow-up to Gaara's. Introduced as a bitter, cynical elder of the Sand Village, she carried the scars of war and the mistakes of the past. She helped create the cycle of hatred that ruined lives like Gaara's. But when Gaara dies, Chiyo makes the ultimate choice. She sacrifices her own life to bring him back. In doing so, she redeems herself. She acknowledges the mistakes of her generation and entrusts the future to the young shinobi like Gaara and Naruto. Her death is peaceful, but that doesn't make it less sad. Watching her fade away, smiling as she sees hope in the new generation, is powerful. Chiyo's sacrifice is different from many others in the series. It's not violent or tragic, it's redemptive, but it still leaves a lump in the throat because she finally found peace only by giving up her life. Asuma Sarutobi. Asuma's death hit hard because of how grounded it was. He wasn't a legendary figure like Jiraiya or a monstrous enemy like Pain. He was a teacher, a mentor, and a father-to-be. His role as the leader of Team 10 made him one of the most relatable and beloved Jonin. When he faces Haiden of the Akatsuki, fans knew it was going to be bad, but the way it played out was brutal. Trapped by Haiden's cursed ritual, Asuma is forced to endure fatal wounds he can't escape. His team watches helplessly, unable to save him. But what truly makes his death devastating are his final moments. With his last breaths, he speaks to his students, Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji, encouraging them, reminding them of their strengths, and entrusting the future to them. And then, in silence, he's gone. The weight of his death lingers throughout the series, especially in Shikamaru's grief and determination to avenge him. Asuma's death wasn't just sad, it was deeply human. It was the loss of a teacher, a friend, and a father who never got to meet his child. Jiraiya. If there's one death in Naruto that left the entire fan base sobbing, it's Jiraiya's. He wasn't just a mentor, he was family to Naruto. The man who taught him Rasengan, who pushed him through training, who gave him a sense of belonging when the rest of the world treated him like an outcast. For Naruto, Jiraiya wasn't just a teacher, he was the closest thing to a father he ever had. When Jiraiya travels to the Hidden Rain Village to investigate the Akatsuki's leader, we already know the stakes are high. He's up against Pain, a mysterious figure who commands godlike power. But Jiraiya doesn't hesitate. He knows he might not come back. Still, he dives into battle with that same grin, that same easygoing confidence that hides just how much he cares. The fight is brutal. He unlocks Sage Mode, pushes himself to the absolute limit, and even manages to figure out Pain's secret, that there are multiple bodies controlled by one mind. But in the end, he's overwhelmed. The scene of Jiraiya losing his arm, blood soaking the ocean water, is shocking enough. But what truly breaks us is what comes next. With his last moments, Jiraiya doesn't think about himself. He thinks about Naruto. He writes a coded message on the back of Fukasaku, ensuring the knowledge he gained won't die with him. His final thoughts are of his student, the boy who would inherit his dream. The tale of Jiraiya the Gallant comes to a close. But the story of Naruto Uzumaki has only just begun. It's that passing of the torch, that selfless sacrifice, that makes Jiraiya's death so painful. He dies alone, but not hopeless. He believes in Naruto, and that belief shapes the entire rest of the series. For many fans, Jiraiya's death is the saddest in all of Naruto. Itachi Uchiha. Few deaths in anime are as complicated as Itachi's. For years, he was painted as the monster who massacred the Uchiha clan, the cold and heartless brother who tormented Sasuke. Fans hated him. And then, in one incredible twist, his death revealed the truth. Itachi wasn't a villain, he was a tragic hero. The fight between Itachi and Sasuke is one of the most emotional in the series. Sasuke believes he's finally getting justice, that he's avenging his family. He pours everything into the battle, while Itachi fights with an almost eerie calm. Every strike, every jutsu, feels like Itachi is guiding Sasuke, testing him, preparing him. And then comes the moment. As Itachi staggers toward Sasuke, his body failing, we expect one final act of violence. Instead, he reaches out and taps Sasuke gently on the forehead, the same gesture he used when they were children. Then, with a faint smile, he collapses. Only later do we learn the truth, that Itachi killed the Uchiha on orders from the Leaf to prevent a coup, that he spared Sasuke out of love, that he bore the hatred of the world to protect his little brother. His entire life was sacrifice. His death wasn't just sad, it was devastating because of what it revealed. For Sasuke and for fans, Itachi's death changed everything. He wasn't the villain we thought. He was a brother who loved too much, who carried too much, and who finally found peace in death. Kakashi Hatake Kakashi's temporary death during Pain's assault on Konoha was one of the most shocking moments in the series. Kakashi is the backbone of Team 7, the teacher, the steady hand who's always there no matter how dire things get. To see him fall was almost unthinkable. The fight against Pain pushes him to the edge. He uses everything in his arsenal: Sharingan, Kamui, his tactical genius. But he's facing an opponent who feels unstoppable. Kakashi burns through his chakra, fighting desperately to protect the village. The heartbreaking moment comes when he expends the last of his energy to save Choji. Even in death, his first thought is of others. His soul drifts into the afterlife, where he meets his father, Sakumo. It's one of the most quietly emotional scenes in the series, father and son finally reconciling after years of regret. Of course, Kakashi is later revived when Nagato uses his Rina rebirth technique, but that doesn't erase the weight of his death. For a brief time, fans thought they had lost one of the most beloved characters in the series. And even though he came back, that moment of grief, of silence, still lingers. Nagato, known as Pain, was one of the most terrifying antagonists in Naruto. His power was godlike, his ideology chilling, and his assault on Konoha one of the darkest moments in the series. But his death was redemption. After his brutal battle with Naruto, after leveling the Hidden Leaf, Nagato listens to Naruto's words. Naruto doesn't just fight him, he reaches him. He reminds Nagato of Jiraiya, of the ideals they once shared, of the dream of peace that got twisted into hatred. For the first time in years, Nagato questions himself, and in the end, he makes the ultimate choice. He uses Rini Rebirth, sacrificing his own life to bring back everyone who died in his attack. The man who called himself a god dies like a human, atoning for his sins. Nagato's death is sad because it shows how far he had fallen and how much pain shaped him, but it's also hopeful. He dies believing in Naruto, believing that the cycle of hatred can finally be broken. For fans, it was a bittersweet farewell, the end of a villain, but also the redemption of a broken man. Konan's death is one of the most underrated tragedies in Naruto. As the only female member of the original Akatsuki trio with Yahiko and Nagato, she was the heart of their group. After Nagato's death, she becomes the leader of the Hidden Rain, determined to honor his sacrifice and protect his legacy. But when Obito comes for Nagato's Rinnegan, Konan refuses to back down. She faces him in an incredible battle, unleashing her paper ocean technique, billions of explosive tags designed to kill even a god. For a moment, it seems like she's won, but Obito's Kamui saves him, and in the end, he pierces her through. As she dies, Konan envisions Yahiko and Nagato waiting for her, smiling. It's a quiet, almost peaceful death, but devastating because she deserved so much more. Konan wasn't just a side character. She was a survivor, a believer in peace, a woman who carried the ideals of her friends to the very end. Her death doesn't get the same attention as Jiraiya or Itachi, but for many fans, it's one of the most quietly heartbreaking in the entire series. Minato Namikaze Minato's death is legendary because it shaped everything that came after. As the fourth Hokage, as a genius shinobi, as Naruto's father, his legacy looms over the entire series. But the story of his death is also one of the saddest. When the Nine Tails attacks Konoha, Minato knows the cost of victory will be his life. He and Kushina make the ultimate sacrifice, sealing Kurama inside their newborn son to save the village. The image of Minato and Kushina saying goodbye to Naruto is one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in the series. What makes it so tragic is that Naruto grows up never knowing his parents. For years, he's alone, shunned, unaware of the love they had for him. It's only later, when he meets Minato's spirit, that he finally understands the depth of their sacrifice. Minato's death isn't just sad, it's foundational. It sets Naruto's entire life into motion, while also showing the selflessness of a true Hokage. He gave everything for his village and for his son, Neji Hyuga. Neji's death during the Fourth Great Ninja War is one of the most controversial and emotional moments in Naruto. Once a bitter boy who believed in fate and destiny, Neji grew into a man who believed in choice, in forging his own path. His arc was one of growth, freedom, and acceptance. When the Ten Tails launches an attack aimed at Naruto and Hinata, Neji makes the ultimate sacrifice. He throws himself in front of them, taking the blow that would have killed them both. His words, "Because you called me a genius," cut deep. Neji dies protecting not just his comrades, but his friends, his family, and the future. His death symbolizes his complete transformation, from someone trapped by destiny to someone who chose his own way. But it's also heartbreaking because fans wanted more for him. He was a beloved character who deserved to live to see the peace he helped create. Shikaku Narashikaku's death during the war is one of the quietest but most powerful. As Shikamaru's father and the chief strategist of the allied shinobi forces, Shikaku was a brilliant mind and a steady presence. When the Ten Tails launches a massive attack, Shikaku and Inoichi are among those caught in the blast. With seconds left to live, Shikaku doesn't panic. He calmly relays one final strategy to the Alliance, ensuring they'll have a fighting chance even after he's gone. The composure in that moment is incredible. He knows he's about to die, but he still thinks only of his comrades, of the battle, of the bigger picture. For Shikamaru, the loss is devastating. His father was his guide, his role model, his anchor. Shikaku's death isn't flashy, but it's one of the saddest because of its weight. It's the quiet end of a brilliant man, the loss of a father, and the reminder that even in war, heroes die, not with a scream, but with a steady voice.